Today we're breaking down 3 series. First, the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. Warriors lead the series 2-1. And are we just gonna ignore the fact that Kevin Durant outscored 4 of the Clippers starters? Kevin Durant had 38 points. 4 of the Clippers starters combined for 28 points. Gallinari, Shamet, Patrick Beverley, and Gilgeous-Alexander scored 28, and Kevin Durant dropped 38. Kevin Durant was on fire. He was aggressive. He made the right basketball play. Golden State made an adjustment where instead of getting KD too far up on top of the key, they got him kind of mid-post, and he made decisions out of there. And what was a little wrinkle they did, every time they're going to bring the double, somebody flashed to the basket. Earlier in Game 2 and in Game 1, they didn't have like concrete counters to a double team. They would just kind of let KD do what he does. But now you can see there was a intense game plan of if they double, Bogut is gonna flash to the baseline, either for a layup or a dunk. Bogut got a couple of layups and dunks. Another thing, what a lot of people aren't really talking about, Clay got going. And that was something I said in my last video where Clay and KD both had to get going in order for the Golden State Warriors to not only win this series, but also just be successful in the playoffs. For some reason, Clay always starts out really slow, and that hurts the team. A lot of games they lose is because Clay starts out slow, and it's hard for him to get into a rhythm. So that was really a rhythm game for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, once again, they had a 30-plus point lead, which they had in Game 2, so they could get it. It's just maintaining the focus. But the fact that they got out to a 20-point lead, I think they got out to a 20-point lead in the first quarter, or the second quarter. Yeah, the second quarter got a 20-point lead. Then they get to a 30-plus point lead. It's just showing you that, when KD said what he said about I'm KD, he really meant what he said. And then we can't leave out the fact that Steph was going off for a little bit, and then he got into foul trouble. So if these guys don't get in the foul, I think foul trouble is their kryptonite. The way you beat the Warriors is get them in the foul trouble. Because if they're not in foul trouble, they're not losing. Or it's hard for you to beat them if they're not in foul trouble and they're clicking on all cylinders. You notice that in Game 2 when they blew the lead, Steph got into foul trouble. So then KD had to take over, and then that lead started dwindling or whatever the case is. This time, there was a renewed focus. Iguodala was hitting shots. And guys weren't waiting around. Draymond Green was driving to the basket, he was posting up. So he was catching people off guard. So they attack you from multiple aspects of the court. And just playing like this, playing that beautiful brand of basketball, they're tough to beat, point blank period. It's not only the talent. Like, I think a lot of people get confused. Oh, they got 4 All-Stars. It's not just the talent. Like, if you look at them playing on the court, they're making beautiful passes. The way that guys are flashing to the hoop and not, it's immaculate. It's not a perfect game, but it's a great game. It's a team game that you want to see. And the fact that KD was aggressive and didn't let Patrick Beverley get to him was really good. But also, pay attention. KD's comments about the refs letting Patrick Beverley get away with stuff. They started calling a lot more fouls on Beverley. He picked up his 4th, within the 3rd quarter, whatever the case is. And the refs picked up on that. So stars, when they say things, it does come back to the officials and how they're refereeing stuff. So that does come back. The Nets and Philadelphia 76ers took a 2-1 lead. Ben Simmons had 31 points after people were posting missing sign for his jumper, but he didn't need a jumper because he was getting a lot of dunks and layups. And the Nets couldn't keep him out the paint. I guess they didn't read the scouting report, or they did read the scouting report, chose to ignore it. They kept letting him get a full head of steam, a la LeBron circa 2008, 2009. And he was getting to the basket. He was getting to the cup at will, making good plays. Tobias Harris went 6 for 6 from 3. J.J. Redick had 26 points. The Philly had 4 players in double figures from the starters. Jimmy Butler had 16. In a game where you think Jimmy Butler scored 16, you would think that the Sixers would lose that game. No, they win that game, and they do it in convincing fashion. As opposed to the Nets, it was awful. Now, what happened to the Nets, And the reason why they're down 2-1 is because they didn't harness their emotion properly. This went from a series about grit and being an underdog kind of emotion, like we've been the underdog, we've been this, to after they took that 1-0 lead, we're supposed to be here. This is what we do. They got too emotional. They got too high on themselves. And you can see it because you got Jared Dudley, who didn't even play game 2, talking about, oh, Ben Simmons, if fast break-wise, he's a great player, but he's not a great player if you put him in a half-court set. And a lot of times he was scoring was in a half-court set. And a lot of plays he was making was in a half-court set. Like, Jared Dudley got into the emotions game, and so did Embiid, and so did Ben Simmons. But here's the thing: Ben Simmons and Embiid, those guys are young. They don't really thrive off that emotion like an older guy would. See what I'm saying? Like a veteran does. They're not thriving off that emotion. So you're never gonna win that game because they're apathetic. A lot of young players are apathetic to the game of basketball, point blank, period. You know, a lot of them just play because they get paid to do it. But a lot of them aren't. They ain't gonna get emotional when you talking smack to them. It's not. There's no more pride in there. So the Brooklyn Nets let their pride get in the way of what they had to do. They lost track of JJ Redick. Couldn't guard him at all. They looked like they failed to read the scouting report on Ben Simmons. Their defense was just like Swiss cheese defense, and a lot of hero ball down the stretch. They're gonna have to probably get Joe Harris out of that starting lineup because he's not knocking down any threes. A guy that won the NBA three-point contest not knocking down threes. You got to get him out of there, put somebody else who's not fearful to shoot and at least make plays. Because he's not playing well, but you know that all that was is the emotions got too high. Their emotions got the best of them, and that's why they're down 2-1. You would see a game without Joel Embiid and be like, okay, Joel ain't playing. I mean, and the Nets did try to, they had a lead at some point during the game or whatever cases, but they didn't capitalize. But you would think they would say, Joel ain't playing, let's blitz him. First quarter, we're going to blitz him. Full court press, all this stuff. None of that happened. So that's part of that's the coaching as well. I guess that's what B-ball breakdown would call a coaching criminality. Anyway, moving on to the final game, San Antonio Spurs and the Nuggets. Look, man, I said this and I said it before. Nuggets can't play half-court basketball well. These guys shot 50% from the field, 50% from three, and lose the game. They can't play. Their bread and butter isn't the half-court game. And the thing about sucks in the playoffs is there's so much intensity. You can't play a fast break game all day long. Millsap failed to show up. Jokic had 22, but the starters, they're not doing what they have to do to win this series. Derek White went off for 36, which is a career high. I mean, it's not even a surprise anymore when Popovich pulls a rabbit out the hat. Some new player that we never ever heard of that's just balling, doing his thing. Like it's not even a surprise anymore. But the Spurs have been disciplined. They're not beating themselves, and the Nuggets, they're just beating themselves. Their half court sets are horrible. Like it's just like they can't get it going. They can't get it going. Also, another guy that had 6 points, which is like feast or famine, is like Jamal Murray. One game you're going to have a 21 in the fourth, to now you only having 6 points the whole entire game. It's just like there's no consistency, and part of that has to come down from the leadership, which is the coaching. When you're playing against a disciplined team and you're down 5, 6, that's okay. You could fool around a little bit. You could experiment a little bit. But when you're playing against a disciplined team, you're down 12, 10, 14, 9. You got to call more timeouts. You got to get you got to get into your guys. There's a lack of focus there. And to shoot so well in terms of regular, your stats. But free throw wise, they didn't shoot well at all, 9 for 17. But to shoot so well overall in the field is just like, you're not getting enough shots up in your half-court sets. And you're not running them to the full effect. Every shot that the Spurs took, I would say 85% of them, they wanted it. A lot of the shots that the Nuggets took, I would say 55%, that wasn't the shot that they wanted to take. Or they got 55% of the shots that they wanted to take. So the Spurs are getting a lot more of their bread and butter plays as opposed to the Nuggets. And the Nuggets have the better record, have the younger legs, have more star power. So it's just like it just doesn't make sense for them to be down 2-1, and that's to me is the coaching. You coach them up to be one of the best teams in the West, not coach them up to be one of the best playoff teams. See, there's a difference though. Playoffs and the regular season. Regular season, you're running and gunning. Playoffs is not so much run and gun, and we saw that with the Sacramento Kings back in the day, early 2000s, late 90s. They couldn't get over the hump because they run and gunned throughout the whole regular season, all the way to the playoffs. They had to face the Lakers and or the Dallas Mavericks. You know, until they faced good competition that had half court sets, it was a wrap. So it's really sad to see them down 2-1. If they don't win the next game, is needless to say. So Hoops Junction, where hoops meets hoopla. Like, comment, and subscribe.